Hello, everyone, and welcome into the hospitality room presented by Mascot Media, the land of crockpots and ice drinks. Bobby Swofford, Blair Cartwright with you on a Wednesday. Things happen, things change, so we're kind of mixing it up, keeping people on their
Yeah,
toes.
it's been a busy week, unfortunately, for you, for me, for everybody else involved.
Yeah.
This is that time of year where we find some way to take like nine different sports and meld it all together. It's what's
Yes.
going on these days.
Oh, and speaking of which, you want to give a plug?
Yeah, regional volleyball, the first time we've ever had regional volleyball in the state. You can watch a lot of those games live stream. You can see the site right there,
Yeah.
AAAscoreboard.com. I
How about
think we've
that?
got a handful of matches today, or the semifinals. So if you won yesterday, you're into the state tournament for next week. Now you're playing for seeding. 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock today are the match times, and same time for tomorrow for the third place games and the championships. And then I started building them today. State tournament brackets for the big schools. They're pretty much all set. I think there's only one conference in 5A that's still got a couple teams battling for bids. And then the 6A West and the 6A Central are pretty much locked in already. So those brackets are set. They'll get it going next week, starting on Tuesday.
Nice. Yeah, and that
And we
starts
will
and then bang.
match from every location streams next week on
Awesome.
AAAscoreboard.com.
So bookmark it
Yeah.
right now. Right now. All right, let's get to our headlines. We'll start with baseball first because
Mm.
we're football centric, but I want to make sure we get into it. Man, I was stunned to wake up this morning and read that Fernando Valenzuela had passed away at 63.
Yeah. He was a touch before my time, but I think one of the obviously the most iconic and memorable pitching deliveries you'll ever see. And I think that's probably what most people will remember him for. But obviously, what he was able to do for the Dodgers, and with the Dodgers being in the World Series this week, it's a little closer to home for a lot of baseball fans. But one of those all-time greats in his era, for no question.
Yeah, I was listening to some different podcasts today talking about that. He he won his first state starts as a rookie. No one
Hmm.
had ever heard of him. I remember Fernando Mania. He threw six complete games in the first eight starts. There are guys that don't complete six complete games in a season.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
was
he
built
just
different.
captured
Yeah.
it.
Well, pitchers back then were built different anyway. I mean,
True.
today's modern pitchers, yeah, they throw harder, they have more revolutions and whatever all the analytics you want to get to it. Those guys back then, every time they took the ball, they're like, I'm not giving it back. I'm going 9 innings today.
Hmm.
And so it was a different brand of baseball. They didn't throw as hard, maybe didn't move as much, but those guys knew how to pitch. They weren't just power guys.
Yeah, and you talk about built different. His body frame, you saw him and you
Hmm.
thought, "There's no way."
Yeah.
He'd look up, he'd glance up as he was doing his motion. I mean, it was a phenomenon, and the only thing I could
Hmm.
compare it to was Mark the Bird Fidrich when he was a rookie with the Tigers, but he flamed out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Fernando ended up having a somewhat lengthy career.
Yeah, Hideo Nomo, another Dodger pitcher, his delivery comes to mind as well. For those things you just don't see very often, like, oh, how in the world is this repeatable? They find ways to get it over the plate.
Yep, it's amazing. So that leads us into the World Series. Who do you like, Yankees or Dodgers?
Yeah, I don't like either one of them. So the one thing we saw in the National League Championship Series is the Dodgers bats took the managing abilities away from Dave Roberts, and that's why they won. Because when you go out there and you put up double-digit runs, you can't overmanage. It doesn't matter when
Hmm.
you're making pitches changes because your guys are constantly putting pressure on the other team, and that's what the Dodgers did. And I don't see anything with the Yankees rotation that's really going to slow that down. Now, the one thing that makes me kind of pause that when you see a hot team is when you have a long break. I mean,
Hmm.
the Dodgers are going to have almost a week break from the time they beat the Padres. And I know that they have to schedule out the TV, uh, windows and all that, but having a full week off, baseball's lost a ton of momentum this week. Can you imagine if they
Yes.
rolled out Game One last night when there's
Oh,
really not a lot of competition and all what's on your television?
yeah.
Uh, but I understand why they can't do that. But it would have been so much better if they had Game One last night, Game Two tonight, to games three and four over the weekend. At least you've got some meat on that
Hmm.
bone when you're going up against college football in the NFL. But obviously they're having to wait till Friday, Saturday for one and two, and now they're going to have to fight for every viewer they can get.
Yeah, yeah, because there was nothing on last night, and
Hmm.
if you have two compelling games to open a series,
Yes.
You got the hook set.
Yep.
And if it's two blowouts, then everybody's just going to ignore it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, they could be a little more looser with the schedule. So, if you had to make a prediction, who you're going to go
I'll
Dodgers?
go. I'll go Dodgers just because of how well they're swinging the bat. The Yankees. I'm not gonna say they struggled with Cleveland, but obviously that they scored some runs. But I mean, the Dodgers putting up double digits almost every time they step onto the field. I mean, that's just gonna be hard to beat.
And they're doing it with injuries. I mean, these are not
Yeah.
the frontline starters. So, it's amazing. Speaking of Dodgers, Otani's home run ball. Get this. Oh, nice job on the background of the graphic there for me. Um,
That's hey.
Bobby's actually the one who bit it on the ball.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it.
That's me.
Uh,
Yep.
4.39 million for Otani's 50th home run ball.
Yeah. I mean, 50-50 season. Yeah, that's special. But I mean, it's not to me. McGuire's 70th home run ball is the end all be all. Like that
Hmm.
should be the pinnacle of whatever it is. And of course, you got Barry Bonds. What is the all time record? And
Yeah.
how's that only go for 750,000? Granted, we're talking
Yeah.
different eras, but if McGuire's ball goes for 3 million. I mean, if you sell Barry Bonds is what 756, 757, whatever the record is.
Yeah.
If you sell that baseball today, what's it go for? So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I don't get it. I mean, 50's a. What's the fascination with 50?
Yeah, I think it's the Otani factor because he
Okay.
is a. I'm not even going to say he's a generational player. He is an anomaly in baseball.
Yes.
Like
Oh, yeah.
that doesn't happen. Players like that don't come around. He is a once in a lifetime or a once in a century type player. I mean, that's
Hmm.
for what he's been able to do just his first couple of years in the big leagues is almost unfathomable.
Yeah. Now, if it had been home run number 60, because I think 60 is kind of a magic
Hmm.
number in baseball, I get it. But 50, and then it
Yeah,
makes you okay. What if he hits 60?
yeah.
What's that thing worth?
He's gonna be the first
So
60-60 player.
everybody's going to be buying tickets to
Yeah,
sit in the outfield for Dodger
yeah.
games. So, all right. So that completes our baseball segment.
Oh,
Now to football.
oof,
Ah,
bad,
Saturday
bad,
night.
bad.
You know, in a way, looking back, how did they score 10 points?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, Jacoby Jackson being first changes this team, I think, even more than you and I could have ever guessed. And
Hmm.
just one player and running backs are supposed to be interchangeable in today's football. But Arkansas is a completely different team when he's not healthy. Like almost to the point where Bobby Petrino seems afraid to call a running play. And
Hmm.
then they tried Rashad Dominion out there, and he coughs it up with his first touch against LSU. And then you've got, of course, the quarterback who's going to make bad decisions and miss some reads. And of
Hmm.
course, the RPO down by the goal line where he throws it right into a defender's arms, gets deflected and intercepted at the 5 yard line. Those type of plays are freakish, but also a result of not being able to run the football because nobody took the read there. Like nobody
Hmm.
even attempted to go after the running back because they knew Arkansas's offensive line wasn't getting any kind of push, and it was bad. But also on the other side, I mean, we'll get into the defense a little bit too. Arkansas did some things defensively that they haven't done all season that really made you scratch your head as well.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, LSU played very well, and I don't
They
want
did.
to diminish that. But you just got the feeling that Arkansas sat around for 2 weeks and read press clippings about how great they were.
Yeah, it certainly seemed that way.
And there were no adjustments at halftime. I
Mm-mm.
mean, they didn't
None.
try anything different. It was just, they're not. LSU played power football, and
Yes.
Arkansas cannot play power football.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it was how many times did you see LSU have they're in the shotgun and they motion their running back to the pistol formation, so standing beside the quarterback, and then every time they did that, you knew that they were running to the strong side of the field, which is the tight end. And
Hmm.
Arkansas's defense pointed it out. They shifted, the linebackers are pointing that direction, and they still picked up 5, 6, 7 yards of carry. Like Arkansas knew it was coming and still couldn't stop it. And then, of course, that means Arkansas had to start dropping guys into the box to start the run and man across the board. But the corners are bailing the whole game. You sat there and watched it, Blair. They're
Yeah.
bailing, and 10-yard hitches, 9-yard hitches are there all day for LSU. And when they wanted to go deep, Arkansas would oblige and give them a pass interference call.
Yeah, they got Clark in 1-on-1 and it was over. It was just, how many false start penalties did LSU have? Like
A
700 it
bunch,
seemed like.
yeah.
And it didn't even phase them. The fact that
Hmm.
they had third and goal, I think it was third and goal from the 22 and then
Hmm.
run it in. I
Run
mean,
it
you're
in.
just like, are you serious?
I mean, that sets a tone for the game. There's no doubt.
And that summed up the game. You
Yeah.
know, they keep shooting themselves in the foot and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You want a hot take? So wife and I
Give me
came
a
up.
hot take. Give
So
me
the
a
wife
hot
and I,
take.
so wife and I were there. Our good friends have tickets in the South End Zone Club area.
Ooh,
So we
fancy.
sat in there. It was free, so which is also very very nice.
Yes.
Um, it's a miserable game watching experience.
Really? Do
You
tell.
can't, so you can't hear anything. There is no noise whatsoever.
So you're
They don't
behind
pipe.
glass?
So you're behind glass. It's fully enclosed, right between the uprights. So the view is not bad. I
Mm-hmm.
actually enjoy if you play video games or you know what the view from Madden or college football is like. That's
Yeah.
essentially your view.
Yeah.
So the view's not bad, but you can't hear a thing. The Arkansas band keeps playing, and you don't hear a note. They don't pipe in the volume. All they pipe in is the PA announcer.
Really?
It's yeah. It could be so like it could have been, so like people ask me like, well, how was the crowd? I have no idea because I couldn't hear a single word. I mean, it's
Wow.
so to me, I understand why people have indoor seats.
Mm-hmm.
Completely took away from the atmosphere of going to a college football game.
Wow. And you can't open a window.
No, they have them at cracked at the top, but those are the big panes. Those are open.
Wow. That's
Hmm.
nuts.
Yeah,
Huh.
don't
So
do
in
not
essence,
recommend.
so you're there, but you're not there.
Hmm. I think people pay for it, one, to be out of the elements, but two, no matter where you are, where your seat is in that facility, you're no farther than 25 feet away from the alcohol.
Wow.
So
That's
there's all
crazy.
kinds of beer stands up there. But yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
imagine
enjoy it
that.
because you couldn't like soak in the. I'd sat in there before, but generally my buddies, so I just talked to them throughout the game. Not a big deal. Well, they weren't
Yeah.
there because we were using their tickets. They were out of town, and it was dull and boring.
Yeah. Huh. Did you enjoy some Tusk beer while you were there?
I did not. I actually
Oh,
didn't drink a whole lot
shameful.
on Saturday. I took it easy,
Okay.
which is
Shameful.
also shameful.
Yes. Well, you should have some Tusk beer. We recommend it for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I did. I watched it. I was actually in Bryan over the weekend umpiring, so I'm watching it, and they ran a little. Mark Jones. Okay, it's Herman's Steakhouse, not
Hmm.
Herman's Barbecue. And you went to eat there. You should know the name. And he
Yeah.
kept calling it Reynolds Stadium, and I'm like, what's Reynolds Stadium? It's Reynolds Razorback Stadium.
Right.
But they had a little segment in, I think it was the third quarter. They had mic'd T. Will's daughter, who's I think in junior high,
Hmm.
and that thing lasted like 2 minutes. It was awkward, and it just struck me that you know, one, why did you agree to do it? And two, who thought it was a good idea? It was just weird.
Yeah.
And they're not stopping anybody. It was just, I don't know. It was just one of those
Yeah.
things that just surprised me because it's like under some previous staffs, that never would have happened.
That's
But it kind
interesting.
of, yeah, it was just way too long. I mean, it like bled. We've like missed a play because they had to finish it out. I mean, I'm not knocking the kid. She's supporting her dad, which you'd expect. But it was
Hmm.
just like it was just weird.
Yeah.
ESPN is it's like they forget you're watching the game because you want to see the damn game.
Right.
They want to add all this other fluff crap that no one cares about. And
Yeah, they're trying to make it a full watching experience instead of just getting out of the way and watching the game.
yeah, I mean the casual viewer's not going to tune in for this.
Hmm.
I mean it's sports by God. I mean
Right.
it's odd. So I don't know. I mean that was my big. I mean it was like they were trying to overproduce it in a sense.
Hmm.
And it's like just let the game be the game. But it was not a good night for the Razorbacks by any
Mm.
stretch. The crowd looked phenomenal, but it was just,
Yeah.
eh, here we go again. So that leads me to the next topic. Who's the best team in the SEC?
I, yeah. I mean, I think you have to point to Georgia. I understand that they've now lost to a two-loss Alabama team, but I mean, they went into Austin and whipped Texas, like
Oh
just
yeah,
took them to the woodshed. Um, and I mean, again, if your name is not Alabama, you're not beating Georgia. It's crazy the mental block that the Bulldogs have now with
yeah.
the guys from Tuscaloosa. But so I mean, you have to put Georgia at the top. I mean, it really can't start any argument anywhere else.
No, it's like Georgia's defense is the best team in the SEC. If they
Yeah.
get any offense, well, that's a bonus.
Hmm.
But I mean, holy cow! But they're so inconsistent though, and maybe
They are.
that's because of the offense. I mean, Alabama has gone down, but I don't know why we're surprised because everyone agrees Saban is the GOAT. So you take the GOAT away, well, of course they're not going to be at the same level. I mean, it's just not possible, right?
Right. Yeah. I think we all just kind of thought that the demise of Alabama would take a couple years. And
Yeah.
DeBoer's won everywhere he's been, and that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing. Obviously, he was very successful at Washington, playing against a different schedule. I understand that. But they came out and they beat Georgia early on. And you think, okay, it's still going to be a pretty good team. They still got those 4 and 5 stars that they recruited. But I had this conversation. I think it was Monday with a guy. Everybody's been clamoring for a 12-team playoff, right? Everybody's like, oh, we got
Mm-hmm.
to have more and more and more. This is the one year that you could probably say they don't need a playoff at all. They need a game.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, because realistically, I mean, if it just kind of plays out how we think it's going to, I mean, we need Georgia versus whoever wins the Big Ten, whether it's Penn State, Ohio State, or Oregon, and that's it. We don't need to
Mm-hmm.
find out who the third or fourth or seventh best team is. Like it's just going to be the whoever wins the Big Ten versus whoever wins the SEC. Because I think there's a lot of mediocrity in the top 10, top 12 right now, and they're just by
Yeah.
default. Tennessee bounced back and looked fairly good, obviously beating Alabama this weekend. But then again, that's Alabama. They've got 2 losses. How good of a win is that?
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the standings, A&M and LSU, who nobody's really talking about, are the
Yeah.
only undefeated teams in the conference.
See, I don't know if anybody has a clue how good Texas A&M is.
No, I don't think we do, honestly. And we're probably tainted by that loss to Notre Dame. I mean, LSU lost to USC,
Mhm.
who's now totally just gone in the toilet.
Yeah, lives in
But
Maryland. Ooh.
yeah, but it's like we're seeing teams, the teams like A&M and LSU going this way, and the teams they lost to
Yeah.
are going this way. But
Well,
it
and
is,
that's what the 12-team playoff does is it takes a little bit off of those early non-con
hmm
matchups. Like nobody cares that A&M lost to Notre Dame and Notre Dame's falling on their face. I mean, so, but
yeah,
what happens when if Notre Dame does and maybe even to both of them loses to the military academy schools, Army and Navy, which they very well
hmm
could. I think they're playing one of them this week. And
yeah,
you mentioned USC is just taking a complete face dive.
oh yeah,
But with being an expanded playoff, it doesn't matter anymore. The quality of a win isn't as important anymore because more teams are getting in.
yeah.
Like
I
like
mean,
Boise, SMU, UNLV will have a chance to get in just because we're taking more and more.
hmm yeah, and then the SEC and the Big Ten want automatic
Yeah,
bids for four for each league to leave
yeah,
four for everybody else to fight over. It's crazy,
yeah.
but I don't know. There's still a lot of football to be played, but it's just kind of
There is.
amazing that A&M and LSU, who by the way meet this week, um,
Mm-hmm.
are the lone undefeated teams in the SEC. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's actually a pretty impressive slate of games that you wouldn't think that are that important happening this way. In Boise, UNLV's happening Friday night.
Ooh,
I
nice.
mean, Notre Dame Navy happening this
Mm-hmm.
weekend. I mean, if
Yeah,
Navy rolls to the Meadowlands this week and beats Notre Dame, I mean, you just got to start putting some respect on it, right?
yeah. Oh, I think so. So yeah. So speaking of college football, who's the Heisman favorite?
I still think it's Cam Ward. Yeah, I think it's the
Really?
quarterback from Miami. Uh, they've got hapless Florida State this week, but
Yeah.
based on their schedule and his production, if they go undefeated and he continues to perform at the level he's at, you're going to tell me a quarterback from the U who leads them to a potential playoff team at 13-0. And I'm gonna pull up his stats real quick, but with these type of numbers, and you're gonna say he doesn't win it is crazy.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they are now 7-0 this year. So 7 games, he has 2,500 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 190 yards rushing and 3 more scores. So he is at 2,700 yards and 29 touchdowns in 7 games. So he's accounting for 4 touchdowns per game. To me, it's got to be Cam Ward.
Yeah. Well, he's the co-favorite with Janty at plus
Yeah,
200 according to FanDuel. Dylan Gabriel's third at
yeah.
350, which shocks me in a sense because if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know who Oregon's quarterback is. Travis Hunter is fourth. I'm surprised that Shedeur Sanders is not on this list anywhere.
Yeah. Which is not the 28 combines that Cam Ward has, but
Mm-hmm.
if Oregon runs the table and they've already beat Ohio State, what do they've got left on their schedule? So
Well,
if they
and
go undefeated and they beat Illinois this week, they don't really have much left. They got a bunch of nobodies, but they'd have to beat either Penn State, Ohio State, or somebody like that again in the conference championship. It's probably hard not to give it to Gabriel too. I mean, anymore, and you know this as well as anybody, it
mm-hmm.
is the best player on the best team award. Has been
Yeah,
for a long time. The Boise State running back is going to be really intriguing. If they beat
yeah,
UNLV this weekend, which is a big
yeah.
if,
And here's their
um,
schedule, and look where they're appearing. And I think that makes as much difference as anything. CBS Sports
mhm,
Network, FS1, okay, Fox, you don't know when,
yeah,
CBS Sports Network, Fox,
yeah,
as
but
opposed to the main Fox and
yeah.
ESPN.
So what's the magic number? Is 2,000 yards enough to get him? Is it 2,500? Is it breaking Barry Sanders' record that like, locks it in? Because of that
Yeah,
schedule, I don't know what you can say. Okay, oh well, yeah, he ran for 2,000 yards, but you're playing
yeah.
the Mountain West.
Well,
It's
then
not
it's
like
Troy Davis from Iowa State who ran for 2,000 yards consecutive seasons and didn't even come
yeah,
close to getting the Heisman.
yeah,
And he was the offense, and he was going against a lot
hmm
better name brand teams at the
yeah.
time.
I mean, I believe he's on pace to break Barry Sanders' record, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's co-leader with in the odds with Ward,
Mm-hmm.
so you think he's got he's got a chance, but
26,
is the
28 is
is
the
the
number.
lack of a national spotlight and not one of the major networks pimping him because I mean let's be
Hmm
honest, ESPN's not is
Yep.
carries it and they decide. And if I mean Cam Ward's going to get it if
Yes.
they stay undefeated because ESPN will pimp him.
hmm
I don't think they're going to pimp the Boise State guy even if he breaks Sanders' record.
Yeah, and one problem that they may run into that Miami's not going to have a problem with is you may have to pull Genty back because you're blowing teams out. Miami's got no defense. They need
Yeah.
50 points from him every time out.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Plus, he's well, Boise would have a Mountain West championship game, but
Yeah.
that's not going to compare. Even with the ACC being
hmm
down, that's going to be in prime time,
Yeah.
and you're going to see it. Everyone's going
Yeah.
to see it.
But also, what could potentially be happening that day is Cam Ward for throwing for 305 touchdowns against somebody like Clemson in the
Yeah.
ACC championship.
Well, and it just occurred to me too. He plays in the Eastern Time Zone.
hmm
Everybody's going to see that. Janty playing in Mountain or Pacific Time
Pacific.
Zone.
Yeah.
People aren't going to see it.
It
They're just
happens
going to
too
see
late.
whatever Sports Center shows.
hmm
If they still show highlights, I don't know if they do or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, people aren't going to see it, even though it's available in streaming. So
hmm
the regional bias comes out again, I guess.
Certainly, it does.
Is that fair?
No, but it's the reality we live in.
Yeah, true. True. All right, NFL time. Some trades. The Titans trade a
Yeah,
linebacker and a wide receiver. Tom Snead, who just got traded as a cornerback. I guess I'm happy I got my money. But D Hop going to the Chiefs.
yeah. I mean, it's this week was the last 10 days is all about wide receivers on the move, and it's all the AFC teams, playing. Okay, I got to keep up with the Joneses, aka keep up
Mm-hmm.
with the Chiefs and Kansas. It's like, oh, we're falling behind. We've got this rash of injuries now. Uh, Juju's out for however long. They had to
Mm-hmm.
go out and get somebody. And what's going to be scary about Kansas City. And obviously, Rice is done for the year, but they're going to hit a point where D Hop figures out the offense, they figure out each other, and then
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood Brown's going to come back healthy, and they're going to plug
We
him
hope.
right into the slot, and then they're going to be scary.
Oh yeah. If they and then Kelsey might actually get going,
Uh huh.
which is fine. Let him kind of hang in the weeds to the playoffs. But I was thinking today, talking about the Chiefs. You know who the MVP of the league is? It's Spags.
Yeah,
Steve Spagnuolo. That defense. I
but
mean,
nobody
everyone
talks about him
talks.
enough. Yeah.
No, everyone talks about Mahomes had this and this. Yes, and he when it's crunch time, he delivers. But that defense, if that defense doesn't keep the opponent down, the Chiefs are never having to play from behind.
Hmm.
They're always playing with the lead, which is much easier.
Yeah. It's scary because these are the opportunities that teams had to take advantage of. The Chiefs are
Mm-hmm.
down. The Chiefs are
Oh
down
yeah,
this year, as down as they're ever going to be right
it's
now with Mahomes
depleted.
and Andy Reid there. And yet
Mm-hmm.
they're still finding ways to lose games to Kansas City, or Kansas City's finding ways to win, whichever you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And but they're at one point they're gonna get healthy and they're gonna start to put it together, and teams are not gonna be able to double team Travis Kelsey every time. And then all of a sudden the seas are gonna part and they're gonna be putting up 40 points a game come the playoffs. Granted, you've got Derrick Henry running like a crazy person. I mean, if you ask me who's the MVP favorite right now, maybe you point to Derrick Henry because he's making
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore a completely different team,
Oh
or
yeah,
Jared
on the
Goff.
field.
Yeah, or Jared Goff
Oh
because I think what Detroit's been doing and going to do, obviously Jamison Williams is going to be popped for 2 games now for PEDs, but Detroit's doing offensively scary. He's got more touchdown passes than he does incompletions in the last 5 games.
oh yeah. I mean, he is so accurate of late. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah,
So it looks like Chiefs Lions Super Bowl at this point, which won't happen.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just something to be said with with playing with the lead, which is what Kansas City's been able
Hmm.
to do. The Niners, ooh, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, there's they've been a team that's been so reliant on just having a great defense and offense that takes advantage of great field position, and now they're not taking advantage of anything offensively. They're just inconsistent. They don't have any kind of running game. Obviously, the rookie from Georgia Tech gets hurt. McCaffrey looks like he's not even going to play this year. Uh,
Hmm.
they're in trouble. I mean, they
They're
really are. I
getting
mean,
old.
it's a wide open division. They're getting old. That's I think that's a good point too. And they don't have that it factor.
No,
Maybe it comes up, but I don't know anybody other than Detroit and the NFC has an it factor. It seems just like a wide open
no,
conference.
yeah, okay. And real quick, the Steelers. We thought Tomlin was nuts
Man,
for playing Russell. He knew what he was doing. It didn't start well, but it ended
yeah.
well.
Hey, the Jets talk about a disaster, but yeah, I mean Pittsburgh again, right in the thick of things.
Yeah. Final word.
See you Friday.